Hello everybody, hello my friends, hello fellow creatives. It's nice to see you again. My name's Margaret, this is Maggie Lou Stitches, where I talk about cross stitch and more recently Zentangle and life. And honestly, it feels like so long since I've done this or been here, which I think in reality it's only been about 4 weeks, maybe 5 at the most. But anyway, because I feel like I've been living on a different planet since the last time we spoke. I have just come back from a trip to Toowoomba in Queensland, where I went over to spend some time with my mum and my dad who live there. The trip was planned because my mum has just come out of surgery and she's doing really well and recovering, but she was in recovery, and my sister who is there, who lives near her, was going on a cruise for a while, and we just felt like maybe someone should be with mum while she's recovering. But my mum, hi mum, is quite the recoverer. She does not let things get her down very much or very quickly. And so I was there for 2 weeks, but I ended up extending my stay just because it felt too quick. We were actually having a really good time and mum was recovering. She was better every single day, just watching her energy and her appetite just return slowly, bit by bit, day by day. And so we were able to actually just have a really good time together, and I wanted to stay longer. And also seeing Dad every day was wonderful. He actually lives only a few minutes away in a nursing home, and Mum and I would go up and visit him twice a day and sit with him and spend time with him and watch telly with him. And it was such a lovely, the days just had such lovely routine, lovely sort of timestamps in the day. Now we go and see Dad. Now we've got a few hours. What should we do with that? You know, on one of towards the end, we decided to go up to Picnic Point, which is just at the top of the Great Dividing Range. It's got a beautiful outlook and a lovely cafe and function centre and everything up there. So beautiful. And we had this beautiful experience of just sitting down to have a coffee, and a kookaburra just flew from one of the nearby trees and sat on the railing right next to our table and just hung with us for a while. And to be in such close proximity to a kookaburra was so beautiful. And that was just one of the many lovely things that happened while I was in Toowoomba. However, there was also another not so lovely thing, is I didn't realise when I arrived in Toowoomba that we were about a week away from an impending cyclone. Cyclone Alfred was heading its way to the Queensland coast, to Brisbane, where I have family and friends, and Toowoomba's about 2 hours inland. And even still, the hurricane was going to continue inland and visit Toowoomba and surrounding areas as well. And there was such, as anybody who's been through any impending natural disaster knows, there's such anticipation, there's fear, is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? How bad is this going to be? Where is it going to reach? All of that, yes, all those impending emotions around that. So it was sort of quite weird to have flown somewhere and within about 4 days think like, we've got to hunker down. We've got to do all the things you do to prepare for a cyclone. And that was us inland. Oh, I felt so much for everybody on the coast having to go through that, because it looked like it was going to be a doozy. Anyway, this far out, we know now it did not cause the destruction that it was looking like it would cause at first. It sort of backed off. And there were areas of the Lockyer Valley in Queensland that really did suffer from it. One of the differences in my life in Toowoomba and my life here is that I don't watch any television here. We don't have the television on. I do not watch the news. I do not like to. But Mum and Dad do, and that's fine. So the news was on all the time, which it needs to be when there's an imminent cyclone. You need to be seeing updates. But so to go from no television coverage of something to full-on coverage of this impending cyclone. Oh, it was pretty full-on as far as feeling the tension of it. There was only one night that winds came through Toowoomba that I was scared. I call them cyclonic winds. They probably weren't technically cyclonic, but they were storm winds, but they were the worst I've experienced, where just the noises around that the wind creates and the fear that like is the roof going to come off? Like it was a weird night. That was frightening. And that was the worst of it, fortunately, that I experienced, but it just made for an exciting trip. It was a bit of an unexpected aspect to my trip over to Toowoomba. That was supposed to be 2 weeks that I extended to just short of 4 weeks. Oh, we went to the theatre. We saw the musical Come From Away, which was beautiful. Yeah, which was really beautiful. It was a Toowoomba production and gosh, they did a good job. It was really lovely. We went out to lunch a few times. We also did lots of errands around the house that Mum has sort of been meaning to get to or wanting to get to, and with me there to help, we were able to get to lots of things, and that was enjoyable too. I also got Mum to watch K-dramas with me. Oh, made me so happy. And she really enjoyed them, particularly the first one we watched was Extraordinary Attorney Woo. I hadn't seen that one before. It was such a delight. Mum really enjoyed that. She is one of the loveliest characters on television, I think. And so we would just sit down at night and watch our K-dramas before going to bed. It was such a lovely time. Now, at the last minute when I was getting ready to go to Toowoomba, I actually wasn't going to pack any stitching because I just thought, I don't know how much time I'll have for stitching when I go there, and I need such a particular setup for my stitching, which I've talked about in previous Flosstubes, where I was having trouble with the chair that I was sitting in and I needed to buy a new chair. Now that's a bit of an exciting thing. So actually, even before I go on to Toowoomba stitching story, I do have an update in my stitching ergonomics situation because we did renovate what was just our office and now has a stitchy corner. And I bought a new chair and I bought a new shelving unit to put there, and I bought a new magnifying lamp. It's all set up. And you know what? It was so set up for probably only a week before I left. And I was like, oh, I don't want to leave my new stitchy set up. But so because of that, I realized like I probably won't be able to stitch in Toowoomba. There's too much that I need, especially that magnifying lamp. At the last minute, I decided, yeah, I can fit stuff in. I'm going to take it. So I did travel with my magnifying lamp with a table clamp and my Nerge lap stand, and I just grabbed a few colours to stitch with to start my new pattern. Look, I'm realising I'm not going all over the place, but there's an order here. So okay, new stitchy setup. I'm going to put photos of that here. And as I got to sit in my new stitchy setup for the last week or two before I went to Toowoomba, I got a finish, which is exciting because they don't necessarily come along very often because cross stitch can be slow. So I finished Little Garden, and so here it is. Let me show you. I love it. I love it very much. There she is. Is the light? Yep, no, the light's fine. So I did speak at one stage about putting beads on it. For me, it really needed beads. As I was sewing it, I thought, oh my goodness, this just has to have beads. But I practiced with a few. I bought a few and I started putting, oh yeah, I got a couple of these. And I started putting some along here in little spaces where, as I was sewing it, I thought were obvious spaces that beads would go. And actually, I'd have to say, they didn't look right. They looked a bit obnoxious. For me, they took away from it actually, from the delicate loveliness that it is. And I actually felt like that could have been because I needed the smallest possible beads. And at that point I thought, okay, should I go shopping for smaller beads, like really, really small seed beads, and play with colour and try those? And I think there was a part of me that just went, nah, it's good, I'm fine. And the other thing is, one of the things when I spoke about Zentangle in my last video, there's a statement in Zentangle to be guided by, which is a truth. That is, there are no mistakes in Zentangle. Because that is, if you do something slightly wrong, you go with it. You make another decision after that. There isn't even a wrong. Because Zentangle is abstract, non-representational, my words today. Anyway, it's not like you're drawing a rabbit and you put the foot in the wrong position. That would be wrong on a rabbit. You know, they don't have a foot coming out of their face kind of thing. But because Zentangle is more abstract, you can't go wrong. Anyway, the reason I say that is there are no mistakes in Zentangle. Can also be attributed to life. There are no mistakes in life. That's a bit more extreme and can be a bit more challenging, but it's helpful to remember. And I took that to there are no mistakes in cross stitch, because I did make, I don't even want to say an error, but I did a difference to the pattern, and I decided to go with it and just continue it. So it didn't have that yellow line of stitches that is diamonds all the way down. They were alternate diamonds just around the green. And I accidentally did somewhere, I did them around and just went, oh, I've done too many. Oh, I like that. So the border is slightly more solid in stitches because of that than the pattern, just because I went with that mistake. Didn't even call it a mistake, just went, well, of course, that's how I want the border to be. So that's my little garden and I love it. It's a delight. It was interesting to stitch on, doing a symmetrical motif-based pattern. Honestly, I think I really got into the swing of it probably at about the 3/4 stage in. Towards the end, I was like, oh, I'm really enjoying this now, and I don't think I want it to finish. Whereas that first 3/4, I was like, this is nice. It's fine. It was, yeah. But I really did get into the swing of it by the end. It was sort of a joy and a sadness to finish. And I know there's a lovely cross-stitcher, Flosstuber, Jackie from Comfort Stitching. She talked about that recently, where she finished a large project, a sampler called Bridget Power's 1840, I think that's right. And she talked about the sadness that comes with ending a project that you feel really connected to. And she just articulated that so well, particularly in her project, of course. She really researched into Bridget Power's 1840. Who was that girl? Where did she come from? Who did this original sampler that is now a reproduction pattern that we can all sew from? But once upon a time in 1840, a girl called Bridget made that. And so she really dove into that and explored it. And so by the time she finished it, she felt so connected to the whole journey that it was really sad to finish it. Now, this was nothing quite so deep. And yet I sort of felt the same as I was finishing. I was like, we've been on a journey together. And by the end, I loved the journey. So anyway, that's Little Garden. And that made me very happy. So that brought me up to when I was just about to leave for Toowoomba. Oh, no, not going to go there yet. Since my last video, I showed that I was going to do a Zentangle Opus tile and share that with you here. I was going to, much like a cross stitch, it was going to be a new start. And I think I did put up a picture of what's called the string that I created, the pencil guidelines that I started to create my Zentangle tile in. Anyway, I sat down pretty much every day and tangled and stitched and had a tangle session, had a stitch session, got on with other things in my day. And I'm so glad to have brought Zentangle back into my life. It was It is such a lovely Zen pursuit. Anyway, I want to show you where I've gotten up to. So this is in progress, as you will see. And you know, it's funny, if I had made a floss tube straight after doing this, I would have been able to tell you more, but 4 weeks later, some of the tangles have escaped my mind, but I can still talk about it. So this is where I've gotten to with it. So as I said, I drew these 4 of these strings. I traced a box that was that shape and I drew 4 of those. And then I just selected tangles and started. I started in the center, obviously, you can start anywhere, but I started with these tangles here. And this is what I mean. I do have the name on the back. Yeah, the Indirella. I started with the Indirella tangles, which I spoke about in my last video because I stitched those when I was talking about creating embroidery from Zentangle. I stitched some Indirella. And so because I had just been talking about those, I decided to use those in this. Yes, I won't name all the other tangles, but then I went on, well, maybe I will. This is missed. And no, I won't. They're all written on the back. I write them on the back to remind me as I'm going what I've put where. Because sometimes I might, let's say I've done this tangle here. Later I might go, oh, I want to repeat that up here. What was that tangle again? I can't remember what it's called. And I look on the back and I try to identify which one it was and go and find the step outs for that and do it again to add to that. So this probably represents, I don't know, a week or so of sitting down to tangle every day, and it's been really lovely. I did take this to Toowoomba with me, thinking that I might tangle, and I did not. I did not tangle, so this hasn't seen any action since I've been away. So I'm looking forward to getting back to that again. Yeah. But I'm enjoying how that's coming along. Sometimes the beginning part is almost the most enjoyable because you've just got so much space to work with and sort of almost fewer decisions to make, any decisions. As it gets more closed in, for me, I've got to start making decisions about, like, is that enough? Is there going to be too much? Should I fill that in? Should I add that? Should I connect these? You know, there's a bit more brain chatter that goes on as I'm doing it, as opposed to at the beginning where it's just an empty space and I go, this tangle, la la la, it can go anywhere. So that's my Zentangle progress so far. So the week before I left Toowoomba, I'm stitching, I'm tangling, and then like I said, I didn't think I'd have time to stitch in Toowoomba and my setup would be so specific, but literally at the last minute, in the last hour before I was leaving, I thought, oh, blow it. Yes, I can take some. So I'm talking about Butterfly, my very first full coverage cross stitch that I'm doing, that I showed, that my husband chose the pattern at Christmas time for me and said he'd love it if I did that. And I said, right on. So anyway, I took it, and it turned out when my dad was still at home, he has this recliner that was his chair. And it turned out it was a really good chair for stitching in. So I sat in Dad's recliner. I put the magnifying lamp, clipped it onto a table next to the recliner, and it just worked. And I would get up every morning before we started our day and try to get in some stitching time before Mum got up, and we just started our day, started having breakfast together, started planning our day together, started spending time together. So I did. Oh, it's been so fun working on my first full coverage. I have so much to say about this. So I'll put up a picture here of what the finished thing is going to look like, and I'll show you my progress. Ta-da! Here we are. Now, this shows how big it's going to be. I don't need that there anymore. That was just to center me at the beginning. So this is on 25 count, easy count fabric, and this represents 10 colors. I've actually already run out of one. This is 939, and obviously you can sort of see where that's going to come through here more. It's all the stained glass border colour is a lot of 939. I'm going to need a lot of that, and I went to get it and I can't get it anywhere at the moment. I've got it on back order somewhere, but it doesn't matter. There's plenty of other colours to go on with. It has been a real learning curve doing this, just because I've never worked one stitch over one. I haven't done full coverage before. I haven't worked on such a big pattern, and I mean it is fine work. Like it is, but I love it, honestly. Oh, that's all I want to say. I have loved doing this so much. It has satisfied my soul so much to do this. I haven't even been looking at other patterns that I might want to do. I haven't even been thinking about other projects. I just want to get to this. Every morning I'm notoriously bad at getting up in the morning. I like to sleep in. This would get me out of bed. I would be like, but if I get up now, I can, get in maybe an hour, maybe two. Like, the earlier I get up, the more stitching I could get in. And so I am really, really enjoying this, and I can't wait to get back into it. I only got back last night. I haven't set myself up in my stitch corner. In fact, the decision was, do I sit and stitch this morning or do I record this video? And I chose to come and chat to you all and show you my progress. But, I need to get off this thing now. I need to get in there and start stitching, because the other thing I've noticed is for all of my other patterns, I have used Knit Companion as the app on my iPad that would track the stitches. And it was a little clunky to set up, but always worked, but they weren't huge patterns. This is so big, I just thought I do not want to go through setting this up, so I better explore Pattern Keeper or Markup RXP. Anyway, I've ended up going with Markup RXP. Is that what it's called? Yeah, I think that's what it's called. And what I noticed about it, it's been fantastic. I have no complaints about that. It's a wonderful app. It's working really, really well for me. But what I noticed in other floss tubes that I watch, particularly full coverage ones, obviously people give their stats often. How many stitches they've done this week, how many are to go, what percentage of the pattern they finish. And I've never been very interested in stats. I always think, oh God, no one will be getting those on mine, because I don't know, I'll just be like, well, that much, that much, and it'll be finished when it gets down to there. But I didn't realize that the app presents those stats for you so easily. And when I first saw, after my first couple of days of stitching, the app said at the bottom, estimated finish date, 28th of February 2026. And I went, oh, I could be finished this in February next year. That's a year away. I could do that. I could do that. And then I had a couple of low stitching days or no stitching days, I can't remember. And then I'd look at the app and it would say estimated finish date, June 2026. And I'd be like, oh, I want to get it back. I want to get more stitches in. And I'd look at my average stitches per day, time spent stitching per day, how many stitches. And I realized, oh, that's why. I think it's like having a pedometer and counting your steps. My husband would experience on his bike when he uses a bike computer. He gets very involved in how far he's gone, how long it took him, how many hills, what the gradients were. And he actually got to a point where he got rid of his bike computer or stopped using it, because he was just like, I don't want to measure everything. I just want to enjoy the ride. And I understand that. I understand both. But this has sort of helped me understand the joy of the stats when you're doing the cross stitch. So I'm really enjoying those stats. And between the stitching itself and sort of having an aim of like, could I get this finished in a year? I am right into it. It's just a delight to me. So I'm almost 6% complete. That's about all I can remember off the top of my head. And I love it. The colours, the colours, they're a joy to work with. So yeah, that's going to be my butterfly. That is my butterfly. Happy days. Happy, happy days. I think that's all I've got to show you today on my little return floss tube. Oh, one other little synchronicity that I just wanted to talk about, which is it was a close call, and it was a bit of 6 degrees separation coming up. Last episode, I mentioned a Flosstuber that I really enjoy watching. Her name is Sadie Garita. And when I was in Toowoomba, I went to watch one of Sadie's Flosstubes and Up, and she was in Brisbane, 2 hours away from me. She lives in Bangor, Maine. And she came over to Brisbane for the Mirabilia retreat that is held in Brisbane, I think annually, And I love Mirabilia patterns and stitching. I love watching people do Mirabilia. I haven't ever gotten to it myself, just because there's too much to stitch, but I love watching. We do help each other to satisfy what we're not stitching by watching. So Sadie loves Mirabilia stitching and chose to come to that retreat. And it was just so bizarre for me to just suddenly be so close to somebody I watch who's so far away in the world, and yet there she was. I'm like, you know, I hope the cyclone's not going to get... I hope you didn't travel over a cyclone, but that was all okay. But I just thought that just gave me a little thrill, just how close this cross-stitch world could be. And in fact, had my plans gone differently, I could have been in Brisbane that weekend, because of course I had to fly through Brisbane to come home. And my brain was just going, oh, I could meet one of my Flosstube, you know, I'm a fan, hi. It didn't go that way, but I just really like that little, there was another synchronicity too. There was that one with Sadie Garita, and this one I enjoyed so much. Stitcher with the YouTube name Stitching from Gnome Cottage has come and introduced herself in my comments, and I also follow her on Instagram, so I've seen some of her. Actually, I think I found her after she commented on mine, and because I like to see other people stitching as well, and I was like, oh, and she just finished a long dog sampler. That's right, and it was so beautiful. So I really enjoy following her on Instagram, meeting her here in my comments. That's been really lovely. And then one day, a random Flosstube came up on my feed, and it wasn't a new one. It's one that's been going for a while. And for some reason, this day I just went, oh yeah, I want to watch that. Clicked on it. And she starts her video by saying, hello, look who I've got with me today. It's my sister. I made her come on. You know her as Stitching from Gnome Cottage. Well, you know, here she is. And I was just like, what? The one episode that she appears on her sister's Flosstube, and I have just met her in my comments, and there she is. I just love that. And she had a beautiful mug that she'd been given for Christmas, that was a pottery mug that had Stitching from Gnome Cottage around. It was a beautiful mug, and she held it up, and I was just like, proof. That's my new stitchy friend. Anyway, I just love these little synchronicities and coincidences, and making friends in the community, albeit virtually, you know, and just through comments and watching each other, but it's still lovely. It still has a heart connection to it that I really enjoy. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it for today. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Come say hi in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you next time with progress on my stitching. I do have another few fully finished objects from the past to still show. I'll probably show those to you next time. And more progress on my Zentangle, and you know, look, honestly, who knows what life throws up to talk about by then, because it's been such an interesting last 4 weeks. Oh, let's see what life holds. So in the meantime, go and enjoy your stitching. I'll be enjoying mine. I hope you're all well and stay well. See you next time. Bye.